Everybody I have cared for has either died or left me.
Do you trust me?
What is going on, guys? This is Richie here, back again with yet another review for the Replanet Films. This time, if you can't tell, we're going to be reviewing The Last of Us, HBO's The Last of Us, Episode 1. I will kind of touch upon a little bit of spoiler territory, but a little bit in the latter portion of this video. Just want to get started right away. I really enjoyed it. I was definitely very nervous for sure, as was, I'm sure, a whole bunch of other people as well. However, I feel as though some of these subtle changes that were made for the story, adapting the video game to television, were necessary. I feel like a lot of those subtle changes, while it didn't change much, it fleshed out a lot of the characters, a lot of the story, some of the reasons as to why the outbreak happened, things of that nature. Especially in the beginning of the episode, which I'll get to a little bit later, just in case there are some who haven't seen the first episode yet, who are waiting until all the episodes are available to binge, or anyone who, just isn't familiar with The Last of Us in general, which will be a little bit interesting considering it's been out for 10 years or so. Anyway, the story follows as so, you got your main character, Joel Miller, you got Ellie, and post-apocalyptic world, and there was an outbreak of this fungal cordyceps infection. The game doesn't really delve into how it started, where it came from. I always I did enjoy not the vagueness per se, but the mystery behind how everything, went to hell in The Last of Us. For the show, and I just looking back at this episode now, which is about an hour and 20 minutes, I definitely think that it was best that they adapted the TV show rather than a movie. I don't think you would have been able to condense the entire story of The Last of Us video game into a movie, whether that be 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours might be pushing it a little bit too much. Whereas now with the TV show, and it's going to get a crazy budget. We got the writers of Chernobyl. It's HBO. If anything, you can look at their production values for Game of Thrones, if you will. And I'm pretty sure HBO knows that this show is going to bring them a lot of viewers, a lot of money. And I'm pretty sure we're going to get a season 2, which I would very much be intrigued as to how they handle that situation, because we all know what happened with part 2. Sorry, my wife had the TV on. This is very loud. Performance-wise, I thought Pedro Pascal as Joel was a brilliant choice just right off the bat. I enjoy a lot of the stuff that he's been in. I think he's a great actor. There was a lot of controversy surrounding Ellie's casting with Bella Ramsey, who is also known from Game of Thrones, as is Pedro Pascal. I was definitely one of those that thought the casting was a little bit questionable. If anything, just because Bella Ramsey doesn't quite resemble Ellie in the slightest. So there was that. There's a lot of people that might be a little bit angry. I would call them sort of gatekeepers, if you will. Just in the terms of oh, she's not Ellie, blah, 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 whatever. I don't know if you're looking for a younger person who might not be as experienced as Bella Ramsey might be. She's only 19, but she's got acting chops and experience from Game of Thrones, and I'm pretty sure some other work that I'm not familiar with. So you run the risk of, if you cast younger, you very well might not be able to get that same performance out of somebody who's more experienced, especially in a role like this, which is very crucial. You need to be able to be sure that you have that chemistry with Pedro Pascal or the other individuals on the show who are older. You need to be able to make sure that you can carry that dramatic weight that this role and this story requires. And yeah, there are some children actors out there that have shown that they have some serious acting chops, but you still run the risk of casting wrong, and then there goes the whole show. You know, it's riding on these two characters, Joel and Ellie. If that goes awry, no matter how great looking the show is, how great it's written, all the other characters, how they're done, that is going to sink the ship, unfortunately, in my opinion. So I feel like upon watching episode 1, I thought Bella Ramsey actually did a fantastic job. I think she embodied the character, the sass, and the way in which Ellie delivered some of the lines in the game. I really feel like she captured that and brought that to light, as portrayed by Ashley Johnson in the first 2 video games. Moving forward, you know, we had introductions to Marlene, we had Tommy, we had Tess. I thought everybody was cast well. I thought the actress, who I'm drawing a blank on the name right now, unfortunately, who played Tess, did very well. I thought she brought the same sort of attitude that Tess had in the games. We cannot forget about Sarah. I think, I'm not mistaken, that there was some controversy in Sarah's casting as well. Unfortunately, just because of skin color. I feel like there are some gatekeeping fans that want things to be a certain way. If I could relate it to something, it might be Star Wars, where when Obi-Wan came out, there was a ton of hate for absolutely no reason whatsoever for Reva's character. And it happened to have been because, at least from what I observed, because of her skin color, which was unfair, absolutely unjust. It was a statement made by Disney. I believe even Ewan McGregor put something out as well. You know, those types of toxic fans are not welcome, and they have absolutely no say whatsoever in terms of who can do what or whatever the case may be. You know, it's just stupid shit. So anybody out there who was thinking that way, whether it's for Last of Us, Star Wars, any franchise, go fuck yourself, because you're a piece of shit. Everybody should be able to get an opportunity at work. And with that being said, work. This actress put in work as Sarah. I really enjoyed, again, hate to reiterate, the fleshed out nature of Sarah, because right away you have to be able to make sure that you fall in love with this character, because you ultimately know what her fate is going to be if you've played the games. So I thought, again, with more of the subtle changes, the additions to the story, especially in the beginning, seeing how everything was all hunky-dory and okay, to just complete total chaos within like a day, maybe not even. I thought it was very brilliant, and she knocked it out of the park. She got a couple of tears from me. I wanted to sob. I will not lie. I would honestly have to give this first episode a 10 out of 10. I loved it. It was just, I wanted to watch it again, like as soon as like it went off. It almost felt like experiencing the game for the first time in this format. I knew what was happening, I just didn't know how they were going to execute it, so there was that bit of nervousness with it. But as I was watching it go along, I was enjoying how things were playing out. And I had the same anxiety and everything that I had playing the game the first time when I was watching this episode. So kudos to everybody on board for making what seems to be the best video game to TV or film adaptation to date. So now we're going to talk about some spoilers. So if you haven't seen the first episode, if you know nothing about The Last of Us, please leave, watch it, come back, get my thoughts, leave some comments, all that good stuff. Sarah's death. Absolutely heartbreaking. Absolutely ugly. Pedro Pascal, and I'm drawing a freaking blank on the actor that plays Tommy. They brought their A game, man. They really did. I knew what was going to happen, but it still just broke my heart, you know? That's the focal point. That's the moment where Joel just changes into a completely different man. He's just broken after that point. The beginning of the episode starts off 1968. There's a talk show going on. There's a couple of scientists talking about, you know, different types of pandemic possibilities, things of that nature. And one of the gentlemen that starts going on a monologue, he does an excellent job just delivering this monologue about cordyceps, fungal infections, how they take over the host. And there's some fungal infections that infect ants, and they just use them as a host and do whatever. And while that type of fungi infection isn't strong enough to take over a host because of our body temperature, anything over, I think he said 93 degrees, it would just kill it instantly. But in the case that if the weather gets warmer, so in this case global warming, where certain areas of the world get hotter than what they normally are, what they're supposed to be, then there's the potential that this type of fungi can live inside of like a human being and take over the host, things of that nature. And I thought that was a very brilliant way in sort of introducing this concept. And then fast forward to 2003, where you see Joel early on. He's 34, I believe, that they make mention of. You see Sarah, you see Tommy. It takes place in Austin, Texas. And then things just go awry. I really like how it seemed more realistic. Sarah waking up to all this noise going on. And she goes over to her neighbor's house, the Adlers, which were non-existent in the game. Then you got this whole sequence of her being chased out the house, and then Joel and Tommy roll up after he picks Tommy up from jail. Then they just roll out. They roll out of the neighborhood, and it's really pretty much like the same thing from the video game. You know, you're just driving, trying to get out of the city. You see, you know, that barn house on fire. You see the people pulled over, trying to ask for help, but Joel just tells Tommy to keep driving. And, you know, you see a couple of planes going down. It's just real scary, fucked up shit. Again, it's the same car crash, kerfuffle. Sarah's got an injured ankle, which actually there's a little detail there. And then, of course, the rest is history. Tommy and Joel kind of get split up for a little bit. Then it cuts to 20 years later, and there is a little boy walking over to one of the QZ zones, and they take him in. And there was a sign that it panned over to, and it said about 1 to 2 hours, or 1 to 2 or 5 to 20 minutes or whatever. You'll see this sign. The middle tier, it was like you see this sign, and then the final tier says something about you see it spread towards like the foot and ankle. Go back a little bit. Sarah had the injured ankle from the car accident when that army person, whatever you want to call him, a National Guard or whatever, finds Joel and Sarah. Joel mentions to the soldier that she's just got like an ankle thing, and he radios back and he says it's an ankle thing. So, and that kind of leads me to believe that they thought that she was infected, hence why they shot her. You know, it makes a little bit more sense that way than him getting orders to just kill them on sight, just these two random civilians, which I guess still could make sense, which is what they do in the video game. You know, maybe they don't want to take any more civilians and they're just trying to contain this thing that's going on. So, you know, they're just thinking right off the bat. But I like sort of that little small detail a lot more. There were changes to Robert and to him selling a battery rather than it being weapons in the game. And Joel's pretty much just trying to get this car so he can get out because he wants to go find Tommy. Joel and Tess are on this adventure to try and find Robert so they can get their battery back. And I feel like they explained early on, and a lot better too, what the purpose of Ellie served. Although they haven't gotten too deep into it yet, which I won't touch upon. But the end of the episode is them going into Boston, or the city rather. Ellie reveals that she's infected, and it happened 3 weeks ago. And, you know, they pretty much just have to deliver her. She's cargo. I feel like what they're doing works as a TV adaptation, making all these changes. I don't think it tarnishes anything that the games did. I think the game and the TV series so far work great on their own, and I like that it's borrowing elements from the game rather than, you know, just straight up ripping off, because that would fan service, you can do it, but you can do it to an extent where you don't want it to be like too down your throat and it's just like, all right, whatever. Now you're just like yanking our chain. I believe they're doing it perfectly. Highly recommend it, especially as a huge Last of Us fan, if you can't tell. Right in the background here, we got Part 1, Firefly Edition, Part 2, Special Edition. I got some multiplayer gameplay for me and the boys back in the day. We got a little Uncharted 4 there, right there. We got the remastered version right up there on the PS5. So, again, I was really looking forward to this. I was still nervous. But the more I saw as it was approaching release date, the more I saw the reviews, the positive feedback, my excitement grew more and more. And then upon watching the first episode, knocked that out of the park. Thought it was great. Anyways, with all that being said, I would love to hear your thoughts. Did you watch the first episode? Are you going to wait until it completely airs? Do you not care? Or are you just looking to see what other people say? You know, let me know if you enjoyed some of the changes, if you think it kind of ruins the game's legacy, any and everything in the comment section down below. And if you're interested in some gameplay, I also have a game channel that I co-own and co-run with my cousin. Right now, I do have a Last of Us Part 1 PS5 walkthrough going on. I just uploaded Part 3, so I will drop the playlist link in the description box. If you want to watch some Last of Us multiplayer, some MP factions, I'll drop the link in the description box down below. If you want to watch my walkthrough for The Last of Us Remastered that I never got to finish, I will leave the link in the description box down below. And if you want to watch my walkthrough for The Last of Us Part 2, link in the description box, as well as all of our socials such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, Discord, link to our gaming channel, all that good stuff. In any event, like this video, subscribe, turn on notifications, favorite it, share it with your friends, share it online, leave a comment, let me know what you thought of this first episode. And that's pretty much it. I will see you guys next week for episode 2. Love, peace, chicken grease, and I will catch you all in the next video. So thank you all so much for tuning in.